Nari was adopted, American, and here legally, until a single piece of paper proved two of those things were lies. Students were still laughing in the hallway when she returned to her classroom. Afternoon sun slicing through Venetian blinds in amber bars across desks she'd arranged with care. She set her passport renewal packet down, fingers hovering, trembling imperceptibly, as if the paper might sear her skin. She tried to shake the feeling off, rolled her shoulders back, forced her breath to steady. She had a lesson to run, kids waiting, normal life humming around her like white noise. Yet the officer's voice echoed in the hollow behind her sternum. "Your record, it's flagged. Something's irregular." Her pulse thudded once, hard, and she swallowed against the tightness in her throat, forcing a smile as a student leaned through the doorway, asking about homework. Her lips curved, but her eyes remained flat, distant. Her phone buzzed, the monthly ICE check-in notification. She swiped it open, facial recognition scan required within 72 hours. The app's cheerful interface, verify your identity in seconds, felt like a threat wrapped in emoji. She'd been doing these since her work visa renewal 2 years ago, every scan feeding into a system she couldn't see, couldn't question. She dismissed the notification, but her hand lingered over the delete button. If she missed one check-in, flags would trigger automatically. No human would even review it. But when she was alone after school, the room dimming to soft blue twilight, overhead fluorescents buzzing faintly like trapped insects, she opened the envelope again with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The line was still there, black ink against white bureaucratic letterhead. Status requiring verification. New information, sharp as broken glass, dragged across her ribs. She felt her breath stutter, chest tightening, and whispered into the empty classroom, voice cracking on the edges, "No, not now, not like this." The next morning, she sat across from a clerk whose polite expression had frozen midway through the appointment, mouth half open, eyebrows suspended. His screen glowed faintly green, reflected in his wire-rimmed glasses as he scrolled, blinked twice, scrolled again. "I'm sorry, Miss Coleman. Or Kim. It says Kim here." He blinked rapidly, Adam's apple bobbing. "Your adoption file. It's missing a verification signature. We'll need secondary documentation." Her heart lurched, dropping into her stomach like a stone through ice water. "Okay, so where do I get that?" He hesitated, shoulders stiffening, gaze sliding sideways toward the waiting room. "Too long. That's not clear." "Not clear how?" Her voice pitched higher, fingers gripping the armrests until her knuckles blanched white. He lowered his voice, leaning forward slightly, fluorescent overhead light casting shadows under his eyes. Sometimes early 90s adoptions from Korea had irregularities, nothing to worry about yet. Yet. The word chilled her marrow, spreading frost through her veins. Outside in the cold light, she exhaled shakily, breath misting in the February air. The ordinary street suddenly felt hostile, cars too loud, engines roaring past like predators, people too close. Shoulders brushing hers, faces blurred and indifferent. Her fingers tightened around the envelope, crinkling the paper as she murmured into the winter wind. "My file can't be irregular. It can't." That night at her foster parents' house, she slipped quietly into Sang-woo's old study, floorboards creaking beneath her weight. Dust motes drifted through amber lamplight, suspended like tiny ghosts. The drawers were stuffed with retirement papers, old receipts, forgotten trinkets. She rifled through them, hands moving faster, breath quickening. Then her hand paused on a drawer that didn't slide easily, resistance jamming it halfway. Something wedged in the back. She pulled harder, muscles straining, jaw clenched. A folder lay wedged behind the drawer frame, but it wasn't burned. It was pristine, perfectly intact. She opened it slowly, confusion flickering across her face. A complete adoption file. Her name, birth date, intake form from Busan Children's Office, stamped in red ink. Every signature block filled in. Everything correct. Everything too correct. She held the paper up to the lamplight, squinting. The signature ink caught the glow strangely, too vibrant, too fresh against the yellowed paper. She ran her finger across it. It didn't have the slight depression of decades-old pen pressure. It sat on top of the page like it had been added recently. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't a cover-up. This was a fabrication. Someone hadn't destroyed her real file. They'd created a fake one. She whispered into the lamplight shadows, voice barely audible. "When did you make this, Appa?" New information crashed into her. Impossible, irreversible, a tidal wave slamming through her chest. The shock pulsed like electricity through her nerves, fingertips tingling. The next day, in a cafe humming with soft jazz and espresso machine hisses, Maya listened with steady eyes, but her fingers drummed against her latte cup, a nervous rhythm Nari hadn't seen before. "Nari, this isn't small. This is evidence," Maya said, leaning forward. "I don't want evidence," Nari said, pressing her palms flat against the table. "I want answers. I want to know why someone would forge my file." Maya's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Because the system eats people like us." Us. Maya set down her cup carefully, too carefully. "My mother was deported when I was 12. Adoption paperwork irregularities. Someone at the agency forged her consent signature when I was 6 months old. By the time we found out, I was 11, American citizen, enrolled in school. They said she could stay if she proved fraud. But proving fraud meant admitting someone forged documents, which meant my adoption could be nullified, which meant I could be declared stateless." Nari's breath caught. "She chose to leave," Maya continued, voice flat, controlled. "Went back to Korea so I could stay. I haven't seen her in 16 years. She writes every week. I've never written back because," her voice cracked, "because I don't know what to say to the woman who gave me up twice." The cafe noise seemed to recede, leaving only the two of them suspended in terrible understanding. "That's why I became a journalist," Maya said. "That's why I investigate adoption fraud. Not for a story. For," she stopped, swallowed hard. "For all the mothers who disappeared." Nari reached across the table. Maya's hand was trembling. "I have contacts," Maya said, voice steadying. "Legal aid groups, activists, people who fought these cases. But Nari," she gripped Nari's hand tighter, "if we do this, it won't just uncover the past. It'll detonate your present. Your job, your family, everything you think is stable. Are you ready for that?" Light through the cafe window warmed their table, but the warmth felt fragile now, breakable. Nari nodded slowly. "I don't think I have a choice anymore." "You do," Maya said. "You can walk away, pretend you never found that file, keep your life intact." "That's not a life," Nari whispered. "That's a performance." Maya's expression shifted, something like recognition, or grief, or both. "Okay," she said, "then we burn it all down." For the first time in hours, something like resolve flickered through Nari's chest. A friend, a lifeline, an ally who understood. But that clarity didn't last. Outside, leaning against a brick wall still damp from morning rain, Jae-min waited for her. He lifted a hand in greeting, tentative, fingers barely rising, but his eyes were anxious, darting, pupils dilated. "Hey," she said, stopping on the sidewalk, cold air biting her cheeks. He pushed his hair back, fingers tangling in dark strands, voice low and rough. "You're digging into your file, aren't you?" She blinked, taking a half step back. "How do you know that?" "You shouldn't," he said quickly, words tumbling out, jaw tight, tendons visible in his neck. "Old records. They ruin lives, Nari." Her nerves throbbed, pulse hammering in her temples. "What does that mean?" He looked away, jaw clenched so hard a muscle twitched, hands shoved deep in his hoodie pockets. "Just be careful." A street lamp buzzed faintly above them, flickering yellow light casting sharp shadows across the wet pavement, making his face appear fractured, half lit, half hidden. The tension between them stretched thin enough to snap, air crackling with unspoken warnings. "Jae-min," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper, searching his face. "Why do you look scared?" He didn't answer, just turned his head, shoulders hunching, breath visible in small clouds. When she returned home, a crisp envelope from immigration waited on her bed, white against the dark comforter. She opened it with trembling fingers, paper rattling audibly. "Your visa status is pending additional verification. Failure to provide authenticated adoption records may result in revocation." Her bones turned cold, blood freezing in her veins. The consequences hit with brutal clarity, each implication slamming into her like fists, losing her job, her home, even her legal identity. There would be no returning to normal after this. The bridge was burning behind her. The dread washed through her like icy water, drowning her from the inside out. Later that week, she sat across from Sang-woo at the kitchen table, afternoon light filtering through patterned curtains in soft geometric shapes, casting lace shadows across the worn wood. The air smelled faintly of jasmine tea, nostalgic, safe. "Appa," she said gently, voice careful, measured. "My adoption file. The paperwork has problems." His expression stiffened almost imperceptibly, jaw tightening, eyes narrowing just a fraction, hand pausing mid-reach for his teacup. "Problems? There's a missing signature at immigration, but I found a complete file in your study, with all the signatures. Fresh ink." Silence crashed between them like a physical force. He reached across the table slowly, deliberately, voice warm but edged with something harder underneath. Almost paternal, almost threatening. "Nari, you worry too much. Bureaucracies make mistakes. You are my daughter. That is all that matters." Her throat tightened painfully, emotion swelling behind her eyes. His tenderness stirred something old and fragile in her, the child who'd clung to his hand crossing streets, who'd believed him when he said everything would be okay. For a moment she felt soothed, muscles relaxing slightly, shoulders dropping, like a child again. Safe in his certainty, but he still hadn't answered the question. That night she met Maya again, this time in a parking garage behind a community center. Concrete pillars casting long shadows under flickering yellow lights. A woman waited by a grey sedan, clutching her purse against her chest, eyes darting toward the elevator every few seconds. She looked at Nari and something in her face crumpled. "You're so young," she whispered. Nari stepped closer, pulse quickening. "You knew my birth mother." The woman nodded, tears welling. "Choi Min-seo. We were in the same group home in Busan before the adoptions. She talked about you every day until—" Her voice broke. "Until they took you." Nari's breath caught. "What happened to her?" The woman looked away, jaw trembling. "The facilitator. He forged signatures on dozens of files. Mine, hers, others. We were supposed to stay together, mothers and children, but he made more money placing infants internationally. When Min-seo tried to stop the adoption, he told her she'd never see you again either way. She could let you go to America with a future, or you'd disappear into the system in Korea." Nari felt the floor tilt. "Where is she now?" "I don't know. After the adoptions went through, she left. No one heard from her again." "Why didn't anyone report him?" The woman's hands tightened on her purse, knuckles white. "Because he threatened our children. My daughter's adoption. He said he'd revoke it. Say she was kidnapped, that I was unfit." We all stayed silent. She backed toward her car, shaking her head. "I'm sorry. I have grandchildren now. I can't testify. I can't put them at risk." "Please," Nari reached out. "Tell her I'm sorry," the woman said, voice breaking as she opened the car door. "Tell Min-seo's daughter I'm sorry." She drove away, taillights disappearing into the rain. Nari stood alone in the parking garage, cold concrete under her feet, and realized something worse than lies. Dozens of people knew the truth, and fear had buried it deeper than any fire ever could. Maya stepped out from behind a pillar where she'd been recording on her phone, face grim. "We can't use this. She'll deny everything if we try." Thunder rumbled overhead, distant but approaching. Nari felt something harden in her chest, not anger, but clarity. Then we find someone who can't. Later, alone in her car, dashboard lights glowing faint green in the darkness, Nari pressed her forehead against the steering wheel. The woman's words echoed, "Choi Min-seo. Your mother talked about you every day." A name. Finally, a name. But attached to it was only absence, only the terror that had silenced witnesses for decades. Her phone buzzed, screen illuminating her face in harsh blue-white light. Sang-woo's name lit the display. When she answered, his voice was controlled but sharp, each word precise, clipped. "Nari, I know where you went tonight. That woman is not who she claims. People are trying to manipulate you. Her breath caught, chest freezing mid-inhale. How do you know where I was? A long pause, silence stretching, broken only by faint static on the line. Because I need to protect you, he said softly, voice dropping to something almost tender, almost menacing. And you are making dangerous choices. Shock sliced through her, cold and clean as a blade between ribs. He was watching her, tracking her. A chilling realization that her search was no longer private, that eyes she couldn't see were recording every step, every breath. Hours later, Maya messaged her urgently, "You need to see this. Now." At Maya's apartment, the room lit only by the blue glow of her laptop screen, casting ghostly light across their faces, a database page filled the monitor. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. "The forged file you found, I ran it through an archive database from Sang-woo's old workplace," Maya said, voice tight. "Look at this." On screen, a digital backup of Nari's original intake form, complete, unaltered, with a timestamp. "This backup was accessed 2 weeks ago," Maya continued, "right after you started asking questions about your passport. Someone logged in, downloaded the real file, then..." She pulled up another window. The physical copy was checked out of storage 3 days later. It never came back. Nari stared at the access log. Username, SSW Immigration Consultant. Sang-woo's old login credentials. "He didn't destroy evidence from 30 years ago," Maya whispered. "He destroyed it 2 weeks ago. While you were teaching. While you trusted him." The air left Nari's lungs in one sharp exhale, vision blurring at the edges. This wasn't historical cover-up. This was active obstruction. Her investigation hadn't uncovered old crimes. It had triggered new ones. "There's more," Maya said, pulling up another file. "I found correspondence between Sang-woo and someone named Jae-min Cho. From 3 weeks ago." Nari's stomach dropped. Maya clicked open an email. Subject line, "Re. Your adoption review, assistance available." The message was brief. "I can make the irregularities disappear. But I need you to do something for me first. Nari has been asking questions. I need to know what she knows." Attached was a scanned document, an official-looking letter from immigration enforcement stating that Jaemin's adoption file was being reopened for fraud investigation. "I called the enforcement office," Maya said quietly. "That letter is fake. There's no investigation into Jaemin's file. Sang-woo forged it to scare him into cooperating." Nari felt sick. Jaemin hadn't betrayed her out of weakness. He'd been deceived, manipulated with fabricated evidence, just like she had been her entire life. "He's not just hiding the past," Maya said. "He's engineering the present, controlling everyone around you." Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. A storm was gathering, and the first crack of lightning illuminated Nari's face through the window. She whispered, "I need to talk to Jae-min." Rain hammered against the windows as the night deepened. She drove through empty streets, windshield wipers beating a frantic rhythm. When she arrived at Jaemin's apartment, he opened the door looking like he hadn't slept in days. Eyes red-rimmed, shadows hollowed under them like bruises, skin grey-pale. His hood was up, shoulders hunched, posture defeated. "Nari," he said with a sigh that held no relief, only exhaustion and dread. She stepped inside, pulling out her phone. "I need to show you something." She pulled up the fake immigration letter Maya had uncovered. Held it out. "Sang-woo sent you this, didn't he? Told you your adoption was being investigated?" Jaemin stared at the screen, then slowly sank onto his couch, head dropping into his hands. "He showed me a physical copy, official letterhead, federal seal, everything." "It's fake," Nari said. "There's no investigation. He forged it." Jaemin looked up, face crumbling. No, that can't." His voice broke. "I gave him access to your cloud storage because of that letter. He said if I helped him protect you from making mistakes, he'd make my case disappear." "There was no case," Nari said softly. A soft clicking sound came from his trembling rings as he fidgeted, metal tapping metal. His breath came faster, hyperventilating. Oh God, what did I do?" "You were scared," Nari said. "He weaponized that." Jamin's head snapped up, eyes suddenly sharp through the tears. Nari, if he forged federal documents to manipulate me, what else has he forged? Your adoption file? Your birth certificate? How deep does this go? The question hung in the air like smoke. Her phone buzzed. Maya's name flashed on screen. The text was all caps. Nari, the article just went live. I didn't publish it. Someone hacked my account. Her heart stopped. She opened Twitter with shaking hands. Maya's verified account had posted an article minutes ago. Exposed: the American adoption industry's decades of fraud. One woman's story. It was Maya's draft expose, the one that wasn't supposed to publish until they had legal protection. The one with Nari's details, anonymous but specific enough that anyone who knew her could identify her story. It already had 40,000 retweets. Nari's phone began lighting up, not calls but notifications. She scrolled through the comments, each one a small violence. This is why we need stronger vetting. Deport all of them and sort it out later. My tax dollars paid for this fraud. She's probably lying for sympathy. Adoptees always play victim. Strangers were debating her right to exist in real time, none of them knowing her name, all of them certain of her guilt. She watched her life become a referendum, a discourse, a TikTok trend. Someone had already made a video. POV, you find out your adoption was illegal, set to sad music. 47,000 views. Jamin read over her shoulder, face draining of color. Nari, if immigration enforcement sees this, they will, she whispered. Lightning flashed outside, brilliant white illuminating both their faces in stark relief. She drove home through the storm, every red light feeling like a countdown. When she pulled up to her foster parents' house, she expected darkness, sleep, maybe a chance to think. Instead, she saw the unmarked black cars, sleek, official, parked at angles blocking the driveway. 2 enforcement officers stood on the porch, tablets in hand, glowing blue, faces impassive and professional. The house was awake, lights blazing in every window, her foster mother visible through the front window, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. Nari sat in her car, hands frozen on the steering wheel, breath fogging the windows. This was it. The moment everything collapsed, she could drive away, disappear into the night, become someone else, start over, or she could walk toward those officers and face whatever came next. She thought of Maya's mother, deported to protect her daughter. She thought of Choi Min-seo, who'd let her child go to give her a future. She thought of all the women who'd been erased so their children could exist. She opened the car door. One officer approached as she walked up the driveway, footsteps deliberate and measured. Kim Nari. She stopped, feet rooted to concrete, blood turning to ice. We have questions regarding the legality of your adoption and the potential destruction of state records. We'd like you to come inside. Her heartbeat thundered, deafening in her ears, pulse visible in her throat. She stepped through her own front door, and it felt like entering a courtroom. The living room had been transformed into an interrogation space. The officers had moved the coffee table aside. Chairs faced each other in a formal arrangement. Her foster mother sat on the couch, tissue pressed to her face, unable to look up. And Sang-woo sat calmly at the kitchen table, already having made tea, playing the gracious host. When Nari entered, he didn't stand, didn't rush to her. He simply looked up, face arranged in an expression of deep concern. Nari, he said softly. Thank goodness you're home. These officers have some questions, but I've already explained most of the situation. One officer gestured to a chair. Ms. Kim, please sit. She sat, every muscle tense. The officer opened a tablet, pulling up the viral article. This expose mentions an adoptee whose intake file shows evidence of tampering. Anonymous sources suggest the file was recently accessed and the physical copy destroyed. We've been monitoring several cases flagged by this article. Your name came up in cross-reference. Nari's mouth went dry. The officer continued, We need to verify the authenticity of your adoption records. Can you provide your original intake documentation? Before she could answer, Sang-woo interjected smoothly. Officers, I appreciate your diligence, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. He slid a folder across the table, the pristine forged file Nari had found in his study. Here are Nari's complete adoption records. As you can see, everything is in order. All signatures present, all documentation complete. The officer took the folder, examining it. Nari's heart pounded. She could stay silent. Let the forged document stand. Protect Sang-woo, protect her legal status, protect the only family she'd ever known. Or she could speak. "That file is fake," she heard herself say. The room froze. Sang-woo's face went carefully blank. "Nari, you're exhausted." "The ink is fresh," she continued, voice shaking but growing stronger. "It was created within the last few months. The real file was destroyed 2 weeks ago after being accessed from a database using credentials belonging to Sang-woo Coleman." The officer's eyes sharpened. "Can you prove this?" She pulled out her phone, pulling up the screenshots Maya had sent. The database access logs, the timestamps, the email correspondence with Jae-min. Sang-woo stood abruptly. "Officers, I need to speak with you privately. My daughter has been under immense stress lately. She's been seeing a therapist for identity-related issues." "Stop," Nari said, louder now. He turned to her, and for the first time she saw fear crack through his controlled facade. "I spoke with Dr. Chen this afternoon," Nari said quietly. "She confirmed you called her yesterday, asking for copies of my therapy notes. She refused. Patient confidentiality." She looked at the officers. "He was going to use my mental health records to discredit my testimony." The officer's expression shifted, something cold entering their eyes. "Mr. Coleman, we're going to need you to come down to the federal building to answer some questions about document tampering and obstruction of a federal investigation." Sang-woo's carefully constructed world began to crumble in real time. "No," he whispered. "No, you don't understand. I was protecting her. The system was going to take her away. I did what any father would do." "You forged federal documents," the officer said flatly. "You accessed sealed records without authorization. You destroyed evidence. That's not protection, Mr. Coleman. That's multiple felonies." Her foster mother let out a broken sob. Sang-woo turned to Nari, and his face, the face that had read her bedtime stories, had taught her to ride a bike, had held her when she cried about kids at school calling her names, crumpled completely. "Nari, he whispered, tears streaming now, all pretense gone. "Please don't do this. I'm your father." She felt her own tears spill over, hot against her cold cheeks. "I know," she said, voice breaking. "That's why this hurts so much." The officers moved towards Sang-woo, but before they could, the front door burst open. Maya stumbled in, breathless, soaked from running, hair plastered to her face in dark streaks. Right behind her, Jae-min, holding a laptop, and two people Nari didn't recognize. A woman in a sharp suit and an older Korean man with graying hair. "Wait," Maya panted. "Before you arrest anyone, they need to hear this." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, this is an active investigation." "I'm Maya Chen, the journalist who published the exposé," Maya said quickly. "And this is attorney Janet Okoro from the Adoption Rights Coalition. And this," she gestured to the older man, "is Kim Sang-min. He worked at the Busan Children's Office in 1993. The room went silent. The older Korean man stepped forward, eyes finding Nari. He said something in Korean, voice trembling. "He says," Maya translated, "that he remembers your mother, Choi Min-seo. He was there the day she came looking for you, 3 years after the adoption. She'd saved money, learned English, was trying to find out where you'd gone. He told her the records had been sealed, that it was impossible." Nari couldn't breathe. "He says he's lived with that guilt for 30 years, Maya continued. "When he saw the article tonight, he recognized the details. He got on a plane from Seoul 5 hours ago." Kim Sang-min pulled out a folder. Old, weathered, genuine. He opened it carefully. Inside, a photograph. A young Korean woman holding an infant, both of them smiling at the camera. On the back, in careful handwriting, Choi Min-seo and Nari. 1993. Before. Nari's vision blurred as she took the photo with shaking hands. "She's still alive," Maya said softly. "He's been in contact with her for years, part of a support network for separated families. She lives in Busan. She never remarried. She's been waiting, hoping someone would find her someday. The photo trembled in Nari's hands, her mother's face, young, scared but smiling, loving her even then. Attorney Okoro stepped forward, voice crisp and professional. Ms. Kim, we've filed an emergency motion to halt any enforcement action until we can conduct a full investigation into your adoption. We have documentation of systematic fraud at the agency that placed you, affecting over 200 families. Your case is part of a class action lawsuit. You're not alone in this. Nari looked up at Maya, then at Jae-min, then at the attorney and the Korean man who'd flown across the world to right a decades-old wrong. She wasn't alone. But when she turned back to Sang-woo, sitting at the kitchen table with his head in his hands, she felt the full weight of what truth cost. The officer spoke quietly. "Mr. Coleman, you'll still need to come with us. But given the circumstances and the evidence of institutional fraud, we'll be investigating whether you acted alone or as part of a larger conspiracy." Sang-woo looked up, face wet with tears. "I acted alone. Everything I did to protect her. The agency told me her records were problematic, that if anyone looked too closely, she might be sent back. I couldn't let that happen. So His voice broke. "I made sure no one could ever question her right to be here. By erasing who she was," Maya said quietly. "By giving her a future," he shot back, suddenly fierce. "You think the truth would have saved her? The truth would have put her in the system. She would have been deported, sent to orphanages in Korea, lost everything. I gave her a life, a family, love. You gave her a lie," Nari whispered. He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw all of it. His fear when he'd first met her at the airport, a tiny Korean toddler who spoke no English. His desperation to make her his, to claim her, to keep her safe in a country that didn't want either of them. His love, twisted and controlling, but real nonetheless. "I'm sorry," he said, and this time it sounded true. "I'm so sorry, Naria. I just wanted you to be safe." "I needed to be real," she said. "Not safe. Real." The officers moved toward him. He stood slowly, allowing them to guide him toward the door. As he passed Nari, he paused. "Your mother loved you," he said softly. "I want you to know that. When the agency gave me your file, the real one, there was a note inside. From her. I kept it. It's in my bedroom, in the nightstand. She wanted you to have it if you ever asked." Then he was gone, led out into the rain and the flashing lights of the enforcement vehicles. Hours later, after the officers had left, after the statements had been given, after Attorney Okoro had explained the legal process ahead, Nari sat alone in Sang-woo's bedroom. She opened the nightstand drawer with trembling hands. Inside, beneath insurance papers and reading glasses, a small envelope, yellowed with age. Her name written in careful Korean characters she'd only recently learned to read. Gimnari, Kim Nari. She opened it. Inside, a letter in Korean, with an English translation paperclip to it. The handwriting was shaky, unpracticed. "To my daughter, if you are reading this, then you are old enough to ask questions. That means you are strong enough to hear answers. They told me you would have a better life in America. They told me I was too poor, too young, too broken to raise you. Maybe they were right. Maybe I failed you by letting them take you. But I want you to know, I did not give you away because I did not love you. I gave you away because I loved you too much to watch you suffer. I hope you have been happy. I hope your new family has loved you the way I could not. I hope you have never felt the hunger I felt, the fear I knew. But if you ever wonder where you came from, know this. You came from love. Desperate, impossible, insufficient love. But love nonetheless. Your name means lily in Korean. I chose it because lilies grow in the hardest soil, bloom in the coldest spring. I knew you would need to be strong. I am sorry I could not be stronger. If you ever want to find me, I will be waiting. I will always be waiting. Saranghae, Naria. I love you, Nari. Your first mother." Choi Min-seo Nari read it 3 times, tears streaming unchecked. She had 2 mothers now, one who'd given her life and let her go, one who'd given her love and held too tight. She didn't know which loss would be easier to bear. Dawn broke slowly over the city, pale pink and grey washing out the storm. Nari stood on the front porch of the house that had been her home for 28 years, holding a photograph of a woman she'd never met and a letter that rewrote her entire history. Maya's car pulled up to the curb. She got out, walked up the driveway, and simply stood beside Nari without speaking. After a long moment, Maya said, "Attorney Okoro says the emergency motion will likely be granted. You won't be deported while the investigation is ongoing. Could take years to sort out." "Years of not knowing if I'm legal," Nari said. "Years of fighting to make yourself legal," Maya corrected. "There's a difference." Nari looked down at the letter in her hands. "He kept this. All these years he kept it. He knew I had a mother who loved me, and he let me believe I'd been abandoned." "He also kept you," Maya said quietly. "When he could have sent you back, he fought to keep you. That's complicated." "Everything is complicated," Nari whispered. They stood in silence, watching the sun rise over a neighborhood that suddenly felt foreign and familiar all at once. "What happens now?" Nari asked. Maya pulled out her phone, opening an email. "Kim Sang-min gave me your mother's contact information. She wants to talk to you. No pressure, no expectations. Just, if you want, she's been waiting a long time." Nari took the phone, staring at the email address. Minseochoi, 1972@gmail.com. Her mother. Alive, waiting. She thought about Sang-woo sitting in a federal detention cell, paying the price for loving her the only way he knew how. She thought about Maya's mother, exiled so her daughter could stay. She thought about all the mothers who'd been erased, all the children who'd been renamed, all the families shattered by systems that claimed to protect them. "I don't know who I am anymore," she said. Maya took her hand. "Maybe that's okay. Maybe you get to decide now. Not the agency, not Sang-woo, not the government. You." Nari looked at the photograph of Choi Min-seo holding baby Nari. Then she opened her phone and began typing an email. Subject, "From your daughter, dear Min-seo C. I don't know if I should call you mother or if I've lost the right to that word. I don't know if 30 years of silence can be bridged by an email. But I wanted you to know, I got your letter, I'm holding your photograph, and I'm ready to listen if you're ready to talk. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I'll be allowed to stay in America, or if I'll be sent to a career I don't remember, or if I'll end up in some legal limbo between two countries that both feel like foreign land. But I know who I am now. My name is Kim Nari, and I'm your daughter." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The sun climbed higher, burning away the last of the storm clouds. Somewhere in Busan, a phone would buzz with a notification. A woman who'd been waiting 30 years would open an email and cry. And maybe, just maybe, something broken could begin to heal. But Nari knew the truth now. Healing doesn't erase scars. It just teaches you to carry them differently. She looked at Maya. "What if telling the truth destroys everything?" Maya smiled sadly. "What if lying already did?" They stood together on the porch, two women shaped by systems designed to separate them from their histories, watching the day begin. Behind them, the house full of manufactured memories. Ahead of them, a future written in their own words. And between them, the impossible choice that maybe wasn't a choice at all. Because sometimes love means letting go, and sometimes it means holding on. And sometimes, the hardest truth, it means knowing the difference.